Hi everyone, it's Lisa from My Dreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now I thought it was about time that we added another video to the You Can Make This soap series, so that's what we're doing today. Now the soap that we're making today isn't a classic design like an in the pot swirl or a pipe divider or anything. It's just a kind of design that I poured as I was making this soap. Now I have made my soap in a tall and skinny mould, but this will work in any mould that you want. And tool wise, you do need a hanger swirl. Now I didn't actually have a hanger swirl that fitted the mould that I used, so I just made one myself, and I'll go over that in the video. There's no need to spend a lot of money going out and buying expensive hanger tools. Come on, let's go make some soap. Let's start off by having a look at the colours I want to use. So for my raspberry lemonade soap, I want to have a red, pink, green and white soap. So clearly this is going to look a little bit weird that I'm using Purple Passion and Electric Blue from You Make It Up, and Neon Yellow and Neon Pink from Micah Mama. And then also a little bit of titanium dioxide. Now I know this may seem a little bit weird, but some of you may recall that I'm in the UK and therefore we have to have all the colours that we use in our soaps assessed, and then we can't change those colours at all. So therefore I've chosen this range of colours because it allows me to then blend and mix them and produce the colours I want, but still have access to those other colours like the blue and the purple should I want those in different soaps. So I'm going to use the pink, the purple and the yellow to get myself a lovely red, and the blue and the yellow to get myself a nice green, and then obviously the yellow on its own and the white on its own and the pink on its own to get me yellow, white and pink. Now clearly if you don't face the restrictions that I do, you can just go through your micas and pick out the colours that you want to use. I just thought I'd spend a little time discussing it here just to remind you that you don't always have to go and buy a specific mica. Often what you have in your mica cabinet at home may be able to be blended to get the colours that you want. To keep this video in line with my aim of never getting you to use any fancy specialised equipment, I'm just going to use a metal hanger for my hanger tool. Now you can actually buy proper hanger tools from the major soap suppliers, or buying something like a gear tie will do the same trick. Now you do need to be careful when you're trying to make tools to use with your soap to make sure that they're lie safe. On another occasion I actually wanted a very thin hanger tool and I wanted to make it out of some twisted garden wire. So I've snipped off a little piece of the wire that I'm going to twist together to make my hanger, and I've popped it in a lye safe container and covered it with lye solution. I left that alone for 24 hours, and then the next day I took it carefully out of the lye and dried it off on a paper towel. And what I'm looking for here to see if there's any damage to the material. So has that plastic pitted at all? Does any of the colouring or anything come off on this paper towel? And as you can see here, it's all perfectly fine. So therefore I can see that this would be fine for me to use when I'm making some soap. Alternatively, if you don't have time to do a test like this, you can always cover the hanger that you're making in some cling wrap, and that will be good as a temporary barrier as you just quickly use it as a hanger tool. For this soap we need to mix all of our batter up in one go, so I've got the total amount I need for my entire loaf and just add in the lye solution to my oils. This is a technique where you need to keep your batter pretty fluid again for quite a while, so therefore soaping at room temperature or just above, for me that's between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, is a good thing to do. Also, when we blend these together, we're just going to take them to emulsion and no further. Do make sure that you can spot when your batter has got to emulsion, i.e. the stage before it gets to a trace. That's a really good skill to have. If you're unsure about spotting that, I've got a video that explains all the different stages from emulsion up to thick trace, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Now the reason why we're not taking it to trace at this point is because we still need to mix all of our colours in and split everything all out, and that will take a little while. The fragrance oil I'm using today is Raspberry Lemonade from Nature's Garden. Now I'm actually going to add it to my batter at this stage. And the only reason I'm doing that now is because I know that this particular fragrance oil, if anything, actually slows down your trace. If you're at all unsure about your fragrance oil, well, I would also always suggest testing them anyway. But if you've got a fragrance oil that moves in the slightest, you need to be adding it at the last moment after you split your colours out. I want to have each of my 5 colours in equal amounts, so I'm going to weigh the total amount of my batter. Now I know the weight of my jug and I've actually got it engraved on the side of the jug, but do make sure you weigh your containers first, and it's a good idea just to have a list of them written down so you can always refer to them should you forget or something. Now if you're the sort of person that would rather just sort of eyeball this and measure them out that way, that's absolutely fine. I just actually find for me it tends to be quicker to weigh out what I need because I can just pop the right amount in each jug straight away without mucking around trying to even things up. But do what suits you. Now time to add our colours. I would really strongly recommend pre-dispersing your colours in some lightweight oil first of all. This is even more important if you're using any pigments or any neon colours because they take an awful lot of blending to get rid of any little specks in your soap batter. But if you do take the time to pre-disperse your micas as well as your pigments, then it's really good because at this stage you can now just hand stir them into your batter rather than having to use your stick blender. This pot of red that I've got here is my red blend that I make up. So I did an awful lot of testing to find a red that I really like. And once I was happy with it, I made quite a large batch of it up. So I know that my red colour will always be consistent. And then a bit more of my special red into another container. And I'll add some titanium dioxide to that to make it into a pink. And then just a very small amount of the neon yellow that's been dispersed in oil. I don't want a neon yellow in my soap, so I'm just having a little touch of yellow, and I'll put a tiny bit of titanium dioxide in there as well, just to calm that down a bit. And then just a touch of titanium dioxide into the jug that I want the pink. And then finishing off with some titanium dioxide in that last jug to give me my white. Now a lot of people will automatically blend titanium dioxide into their soap batter. I never do. Because of the way I disperse my titanium dioxide, it is so well dispersed that it can, just like any other colour, be simply stirred into the batter and give you the white that you need. If you're unsure how to do this, then again I do have a video showing you my process for dispersing my TD, and I'll leave that in the description below. And then a final stir around all the colours before we start to fill up our squeeze bottles. Now whenever I use squeeze bottles, I have two things that I like. I like my squeeze bottle to be reasonably small. So these bottles are 200 milliliter bottles. I won't fit all my batter in one go, but I do find that they're much easier to squeeze when they're this size, and you just top them up as you're going through. The other thing I look for is that my squeeze bottle is a wide-necked squeeze bottle, and that just makes it easier to clean. You can always put in those little, the packing pillows that you get with some of your parcels that you get delivered, those sort of like little plastic things that look like pillows. You can slice them up and put those inside your bottles. Some people like that because it does cut down on the washing up. One thing that I do find with those, I have used them in the past. I wasn't particularly keen on them because as your batter starts to empty out of the bottle, the bag tends to collapse inside the bottle and then fall down towards the spout. And that can then stop the flow of the batter. So I prefer to just use the plain squeeze bottles and then wash them up afterwards. So all I'm going to do for this pour is aim to make lots and lots and lots of layers, and that's why I'm using a squeeze bottle. You could try and do this with a jug, but with the squeeze bottle you can gently lay that batter on top of the previous layer without it breaking through. With a jug you're unlikely to be able to get close enough to do that. Now, when you're laying down these layers, you can either lay them down as I'm doing in quite a gappy way, or you can make the layers more solid, and you'll see I'll sort of change to that a little bit later on. Overall, it won't make much difference to the design, but what you are trying to do at this stage is kind of just keep everything nice and flat. So I'm just going to carry on alternating my squeeze bottles all the way up through my mould until I've run out of batter. So let's just speed this up a little bit. And then I'm just going to jump up to the top because I'm sure there's only so much squeeze bottle squeezing that you need to watch. Now once we've got all of our batter in, we're going to do our hanger swirl. So I'm just going to run the hanger right the way down to drop it to the bottom of the loaf, and then I'm just going to sort of zigzag on the diagonal all the way up through the mould and then take the hanger out at the top. And as we talked about in the introduction, I've chosen to do a very fine hanger tool here because my layers are very fine, so therefore that will match up. I think a thicker hanger tool would probably distort and mix those layers up far too much. And then I'll just finish off the top by using the scrapings out of my squeeze bottle and just laying them in lines. And then I'll just take a thin skewer, and I'm initially going to go through just up and down through the loaf, a bit like a Taiwan swirl, I guess. And then I'll just go back through over that again in sort of like a wiggly pattern to give more of a swirl design. Now I do have maybe a funny sort of little pet peeve, as it were. Maybe it's just unique to me, but I don't like the top of a soap to interfere with the design on the face. So when you look at a bar of soap from the front, I don't like to see that sort of thick line on the top, like a roof or something on the face of my soap, unless it's deliberately designed with extra piping or something. So therefore, whenever I'm doing my tops, I always make sure that I don't put too much on the top, and also that I only literally drag a tiny way into the top and not break down into the design of the soap. Then, as normal, because I do quite a significant water discount, I will C-pop my soap to ensure it goes through gel. So into my oven that's preheated to 170 degrees F, 75 degrees C, oven turned off as soon as the soap goes in, and then it's left there overnight. So the next day we're unmoulded and ready to cut, and it does smell really good. A bit like, do you get those little love heart sweets? You can almost smell the sort of fizziness and the sort of sherbet edge to this fragrance. I like the design that hanger swirl has made through the bar, and I'm really pleased with the colours, especially now that I've sort of managed to work out how to get what I believe is my ideal red, so I'm really thrilled with that as well. I hope maybe you do think about giving this soap a go. It's not too technically challenging, and by using the squeeze bottles it does allow you to lay those layers down really nicely without having to worry about each one of them setting up individually. So I think it's quite a good technique to do even if you're not awfully experienced with cold processed soap. And then I'll leave you with a final picture of the soap. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you like the soap. If you have, it would be great if you left me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions about the technique or anything, then please leave them in the comments section below and I will get back to you. If you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching everyone. Happy soaping!